I would love to have you come join us in book club. If you are free on Friday, June 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, come to book club. Come be in book club and join the Neurodivergent Creative Pod. It's free to join. You can sign up at my website, www.askfishfisher.com/pod. Hey, sunshine. Welcome to June. Happy Pride Month. I am very excited to talk to you about one of the benefits of my online community called the Neurodivergent Creative Pod. So this is the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. I also have the Neurodivergent Creative Pod, which is a free membership for you, really, for anybody who's a neurodivergent creative. And one of our ongoing programs, activities, whatever you want to call it, is that we have what we call Chaos Book Club. So each month we choose one or two prompts, and then you get to read any book you want that covers that prompt. So we have done a book recommended by a friend. We have done a reread of a book that you have read previously. In April, we did a graphic novel. And then in May, we did two topics. We did a middle grade book and a BIPOC author plus a BIPOC main character. So we are picking these prompts based on the Nowhere Bookshop bingo card. And Nowhere Bookshop is an independent bookstore in Texas that is run by Jenny Lawson of Furiously Happy. And shit, what's her blog called? The Bloggess. So she's the Bloggess, and I adore her, and she's super funny and super mentally ill and super relatable. And if you've ever heard the story about Beyonce the chicken, that was Jenny. And so her bookstore does this like bingo card. This is the second year that they've done it. And we decided that we were going to do a Chaos Book Club and just pick a prompt off the bingo card. And then you read whatever you want. And then we gather together and talk about what we read. It's pretty rad. And I wanted to talk about book club in the first episode for June, because we are meeting, our book club's meeting on June 21st, which is a Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And I would love to have you join the pod and join us for our June book club. And obviously, the topic is an LGBTQ author and main character. And so what I have done for this episode is I have gotten a bunch of books off my shelves that have queer authors and characters. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit about these books. These are some recommendations that are just off my shelf. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but maybe there's something for you in here. I want to start with This Is How You Lose the Time War. This book is beautiful. This book, I could reread it every year. I could reread it every quarter and find something new and delicious and delectable in it. This is by Amal El-Matar and Max Gladstone. And Amal is a bisexual woman. And the two characters in the book are also women. And they are kind of falling in love, even though they're enemies. So it's like not a romance, but it is a romance. It defies genre. This book is incredible. I can't even really describe it. You should read it, but I will attempt to explain it. So there's sort of a like time traveling thing, right? These characters, there are like agencies, teams of people who send agents through the threads of time to make little course corrections here and there. And these two groups are sort of at odds with each other. And so one character is just called Red and the other character is just called Blue. And they start leaving letters for each other. And it starts off as just sort of like, you'll never catch me, haha. And then it quickly, there's like growing affection and respect. And then even like emotional feelings, like they don't want the other one to get caught. They don't want anything bad to happen to the other one. And they, in fact, keep just wanting and wanting and wanting to connect with each other through these letters. And it's such an indescribable book. It's beautiful. You should read it. The end. This is Caitlin's nebulous book reviews today. Okay. So this is How You Lose the Time War, co-written by Amal El-Matar and Max Gladstone. Queer author, queer characters. Book club. So my next clump of books here, these are gay speculative fiction by author Mason Thomas. And we have The Witchstone Amulet, The Shadow Mark, and Lord Mouse. And these are all more for I would say they're kind of like new adult to adult. Like there's sex. Not a ton of sex, but there's usually at least one sex scene per book. All male and male, I'm pretty sure. They're all gay all the way down. And I met Mason Thomas at a convention in Milwaukee called Midwinter Gaming Convention, where I go and I do this workshop called Level Up. And he was there selling his books because he's somewhat local to Wisconsin. He was closer than I was for sure. And our booths were next to each other. So we just started talking as authors do. And I ended up buying all of his books that he had available. And then I read them all in a month. They were very good. So Lord Mouse is about, actually 2 of these are in the same universe. I want to say Lord Mouse and the Shadow Mark are in the same universe, same world, same setting. And Lord Mouse is sort of a scoundrel by nature and master thief by trade. Mouse is the best there is. Sure, his methods may not make him many friends, but he works best alone anyway, and he has never failed a job. But that could change. So he gets hired to go infiltrate a castle and save this young lord, and it's pretty rad. Then we have the Shadow Mark. And this one was much more sort of mysterious and compelling. Aurak Greystone, once a military officer with a promising future, exists on the fringe of society. Accused of murder, Aurak is on the run from the axe until 2 fugitives crash into his solitary life. One is a young man named Cain. The glowing marks on his arm pulse with an otherworldly power, and they have made him the target of a sinister organization called the Order of the Jackal. When the old man protecting Cain dies in an ambush, Aurak swears an oath to take his place. But the runes are far more significant than they realize. They are a message from the Shadow Realm, a dark memory of the past. Super cool, super magic-y, and supernatural. This one was really good. If I had to just recommend one of Mason Thomas's books, maybe it would be this one. But this one's a contender. I liked all of them. Third book, The Witchstone Amulet. This guy is just living his normal life, and then his apartment gets robbed, and the robber jumps through a portal to another world, another realm, and this guy manages to get through the portal as well before it closes, and then he's in the other world, and he has to figure out why somebody stole this amulet from him. It's a mystery. It's magical. It's fantastical. And there's more gay sex. So, it's pretty great. Highly recommend. Highly recommend Mason Thomas. Anyway, so if you like a little bit of magic and a little bit of sex, Mason Thomas, speculative fiction, very good. Next, TJ Klune, baby. TJ Klune is the queer author right now. He's just so good. He's just so good. This is The House on the Cerulean Sea. My therapist actually recommended this to me. He was like, you have to read this. And it is about Linus Baker, who is a caseworker in the department in charge of magical youth. So he is just a guy who goes to his job, does his paperwork, and goes home. And then he gets sent on assignment to the house on the Cerulean Sea, this little house where there are basically magical foster kids. And his job is to go visit magical foster homes and make sure that the kids are, being cared for, etc. and then either recommend that like the homes stay open or maybe the homes close if they can't handle the kids or whatever. How does that help the children though? Anyway, that's what this book is about. So he gets sent to like the most remote, mysterious home on their books. And this is a house where sort of like the very special cases of magical orphans go. And at first he's like, oh, this will not do. This is terrifying. That's the Antichrist. In fact, one of these reviews in here is so funny. Quite possibly the greatest feel-good story ever to involve the Antichrist. Yeah. And also the review on the cover says it's like being wrapped up in a big gay blanket. Also correct. It's so good. And I would say it's YA. I would say it's definitely safe for kids. So basically Linus goes and he's like meeting these kids and getting to know them. And he starts, basically these children radicalize him. And he is no longer like just a by the book paperwork guy. He's like, oh no, this house is really good for the kids. These kids are thriving here. Meanwhile, his like home office is being like, so you're going to shut it down, right? There's like increasing pressure. They don't like this house. They don't like the guy that runs it. There's sneaky undercurrents happening. And Linus is like, I don't know why you guys are so interested in cutting these kids off from support. And then there's a love story, House on the Cerulean Sea. You should read it. Also, TJ Klune, The Extraordinaries series. This is definitely YA. There's 3 books. I only have 2 here because I loaned one to a friend. And the ADHD representation in these books is stunning. So they are told in the point of view of Nick, who is a teenager obsessed with the Extraordinaries, which are like in-world real-life superheroes. So like in our world, you know, we've got Superman and Batman and like whatever, and we know that they're comics. We know that they're TV. We know that they are fake. They are stories. It's like if real world superheroes were happening in addition to our fictional superheroes. So Nick or Nikki is writing fan fiction about the Extraordinaries. He has a big crush on one of the Extraordinaries. And so we get to see that kind of playing out. Meanwhile, he's also like, I want to be extraordinary too. So he's like trying to get himself into like nuclear waste accidents so that he can uncover some superpowers. It's nuts. And there's like a huge epic battle at the end. And it's amazing. You should read it. Obviously, Nikki is gay because we're talking about queer characters. His best friend, Seth, is bisexual. And then they also have 2 friends who are lesbians together. And that is Gibby and who else? Jazz. Gibby and Jazz, which are like 2 of the queerest teenager names I've ever heard. Fantastic. A+ naming, TJ Klune. You are fantastic. Please come on my show. And yeah, highly recommend. And then once you're hooked here, 2nd book, and then the 3rd book. Now I will say, Nick's dad is a cop. So you got to deal with the fact that it's like, oh, my dad is a cop. He's a hero, yada, yada. But then later, they actually talk about the fact that like one of the girls in Nikki's friend group is a Black teenage girl. And eventually, like, Nick's actually working with an extraordinary. And so like they're making this sort of like the guy in the chair, like the team, everybody's got a headset. And Nikki's dad starts getting involved. And then Jazz's parents, pretty sure it's Jazz, they're like, you can't just be like running around being a cop with my Black daughter doing superhero shit. We have to sit down and talk about this. We have to talk about the fact of like police brutality against Black people. And I was like, you know, I didn't think the YA book was going to go there, but I'm very glad that they did. So they do tone down the propaganda a little bit. Excellent. Next up is Isabel Sterling. Isabel Sterling is my book coach, your grand coach. And she has a series. Right now there's 2. A series. Right now there's 2. I feel like there's potential for a 3rd. Not entirely sure if she's going to go that route. But These Witches Don't Burn and This Coven Won't Break. And These Witches Don't Burn was her debut novel. It's so charming. And they're also like really good, like engrossing stories about teenage witches. Like, who doesn't love a teenage witch? I love a teenage witch. So we got some teenage witches. There's different types of witches. So there's elemental witches, blood witches, and a third kind that I can't think of right now. And basically everybody assumes that the blood witches are like the evil kind. So there's a little bit of like inter-witch racism going on in that sense. But there is like there's evidence that blood witches have come to town. And so Hannah, who is a lesbian witch, and her ex-girlfriend Veronica are like trying to figure that out. And Veronica keeps inserting herself, and Hannah's like, we broke up, get away from me. And Veronica's like, you can't get rid of me forever, la 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 la. So there's a little bit of teen drama, but it's like, it's not overdone. It's really good. And it's realistic too. Like, I felt seen as a former teenager. And there's also an adorable new girl in town, and Hannah has the hots for the new girl. And then we also find out that there's a witch hunter on their trail. So, oh no, what's going on? The stakes have never been higher. There's drama. It's fun. It's cute. And honestly, the art is so adorable. That's good art. It's adorable art. And then we have the bewitching sequel, which is This Coven Won't Break. And after the events of These Witches Don't Burn, the witches start like potentially losing their magic. And so we have to go and figure out why. And so there's sort of like a big battle between like the witch hunters who are on the cusp of, I think, like figuring out how to break the magic. And actually, hang on. The back of the book is giving me more detail. It's her senior year. So Hannah should be focusing on classes, hanging out with her best friend, and flirting with her new girlfriend, Morgan. Spoilers, she gets the girl. But it turns out surviving a murderous witch hunter doesn't exactly qualify as a summer vacation. And now the rest of the hunters seem more intent on destroying her magic than ever. So Hannah, everybody thinks that she's fine, but she's kind of like losing her shit a little bit. She's like, oh my God, I almost died, right? Because witch hunter almost got her. Very high stakes. So she's navigating her senior year of high school, romance, and taking down this like epic witch hunter conspiracy. It's very rough. It's great. You should read it. I'm pretty sure I read both of those in like a day at a time. And I just stopped the first one. Like I ended it and just picked up the next one because it was really good. Also by Isabel Sterling, we have The Coldest Touch. This one has a vampire. With every touch, Elise Beaumont experiences exactly how her loved ones will die. And after her brother's death, a death she predicted but was unable to prevent, Elise is desperate to get rid of her terrible gift, no matter the cost. Claire Montgomery also has a unique relationship with death, mostly because she's already dead. Claire is a vampire, and she's been assigned by the Veil to help Elise master her rare death oracle powers. And then they fall in love. Sapphic witches, sapphic vampires, sapphic young adult fiction. They're great. You should read them. And then honorable mention goes to Human First by Rachel Turner. So this is not a novel. This is a book about business, but it was like my first intro to Rachel Turner, who's a huge lesbian. And she was my business coach for a while. I did work with her for several months. And I really love how like little and like simple her chapters are. Like 1 to 3 pages of little business morsels, business-ish musings for non-conforming creative folks. So you're here watching or listening to the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. So if you are also a neurodivergent creative entrepreneur, Rachel Turner, you should read her. Rachel Turner. Okay, those are my book recommendations. Those are my terrible book reviews where I did not prepare for them. I just riffed. So I hope that you can forgive me my lack of prepared content. But I would love to have you come join us in book club. If you are free on Friday, June 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, come to book club. Come be in book club. and join the Neurodivergent Creative Pod. It's free to join. You can sign up at my website, www.askfishfisher.com/pod. That www is very important. I think I have to fix something with like my domain settings, because if you just type in askfishfisher.com, the internet acts like that doesn't exist. So you have to type in the www, but also we'll put links in the show notes and in the description, depending on where you are listening/watching. So join the pod. It's free, or you can join the $7 a month tier, which gives you replay access and creative workshops on demand, as well as our upcoming executive function co-op. So check those out. And for the rest of June, I will be sharing interviews with queer entrepreneurs, and we're going to be talking about queer stuff. So happy Pride Month. I love you. Be gay. Read books.